Welcome everyone. It's Sunday, so that means it's time for another sports Q&A here on this Schleg Daddy TV channel. One more reminder, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday I do these sports Q&As. Now we've got football season coming up, so feel free to send me your NFL questions, your questions about the outlooks of teams heading into 2014 fantasy football draft questions, trade, all that different type of stuff. Anything and everything sports related is all considered. Just go to Twitter, tweet your questions to @pfspot_Schlegel. So let's get started with this Q&A. Plague Noir, fancy schmancy name, asks, what do you think of the Oakland Raiders coming to San Antonio, Texas? I don't, because I don't envision it happening. I'd be stunned if it did, although stranger things have happened. I think this is all just a big power play by Mark Davis to try and force the hand of the city of Oakland to give them a new stadium, a stadium that they so desperately need. If not, maybe this is a way to try and ratchet up interest from Los Angeles and a group in Los Angeles to give the Raiders a stadium to bring them back to where they haven't been in, 20 plus years or whatever the hell it is. At Royal 23 Flush, what do you think will be the Eastern standings come playoff time in the NBA? I'm having trouble putting Cleveland second, maybe third or fourth. Oh, man. That is a great question at this point. I'm not really sure. The offseason hasn't fully played out yet. I mean, especially in the case of Cleveland, you have to see if and when they make a Kevin Love trade or don't. So I'm going to reserve saying that I will pick them for anything at this point until I see the full offseason play out, just like I will for any team in the Eastern Conference or, frankly, the Western Conference. Come NBA season time, that's when you'll get my predictions. At Chase Oliver 68, what is the funniest or craziest fantasy football trade you have seen? Funniest or craziest fantasy football trade I've ever seen? I don't know, Chase. It's a good question because the leagues I've tended to be in over the years really haven't had a lot of crazy trades and really just haven't had a lot of trades in general. I think it's one of these things, honestly, dude, where a lot of people don't want to admit their team shortcomings or admit maybe their failures in the drafts, or they're in the position they are for a reason and they're too stupid to acknowledge that and too stupid to understand that they need to make a trade in order to improve their team. Is a lot of different things. But I really haven't seen a lot of funny or crazy trades in my own leagues, and none that certainly come to mind at this point in time. At _Keys10, is LeBron coming back to Cleveland an elaborate cop-out just to ring chase? No, because, I mean, if you were him at this point in time, you might have sat there and said that his better chance to win a ring next season might have been to wait a little bit, let Miami get some other pieces in the fold, and then re-sign with Miami for a year or two. So I don't think it's an elaborate cop-out just a ring chase. I mean, there's work to do in Cleveland. Him going to Cleveland alone does not instantly make them title contenders. Personally, I don't think he ever wanted to leave Cleveland. It was just a matter of the team that he was in at the time, and he legitimately and understandably viewed Danny Ferry as an incompetent nincompoop as a general manager, and henceforth didn't see himself winning a championship anytime soon, and he wanted a chance to win one at some point. I don't think he ever wanted to leave Cleveland. His hand was forced, and he felt he needed to act. At Nick Cool 123, with the loss of DeMarcus Lawrence, is the Cowboys defense going to be a joke in the 2014 season? Frankly, I think even with DeMarcus Lawrence playing all 16 games, they were still going to be a joke for the whole season. Him being out for, 2 to 3 months definitely doesn't help. Already having Sean Lee gone for the entire year, that definitely doesn't help. Letting guys like DeMarcus Ware leave by cutting them, that doesn't help. Allowing guys like Hatcher to leave doesn't help. Yeah, they're going to be a joke. I don't see a way where they wouldn't be. The only way they wouldn't be, I guess, in theory, would be if the Cowboys on offense ran the football so damn much and milked the clock so damn much that they maybe led the league in time of possession and therefore minimize the amount of time that their defense would actually have to be on the field. At Dante 680, if Jordan didn't retire to play baseball, do you think the Bulls would have won 8 championships? Well, first of all, he never retired to play baseball. This is all an elaborate ruse by the national state-run corporate-owned sports media, and shame on you for buying into it and believing it. If he wouldn't have been having to save the universe from basketball playing aliens that was documented in this true story called Space Jam, except for that BS about him playing baseball in the beginning. That was a lie put in there by the media. But the part about him playing basketball and saving the universe from basketball playing aliens, 100% true. So if he wasn't too busy doing that, trying to save you, me, and the universe, then yes, the Bulls would have won a minimum of 8 championships. At Madden God 45, excuse me, Rodgers, Manning, Breeze, and Brady are the top four quarterbacks in the NFL. Who would you put at number 5? It's always a question, who's that 5th elite quarterback? And I don't know if necessarily one stands out above the rest. If you believe a little bit more in an older generation, maybe a Phillip Rivers, based off of his performance and his pedigree over the years. The newer generation, some might say Russell Wilson because he has the ring. Some might say Andrew Luck because he fits more of the prototype of what every NFL team would want. If I had to say a 5th at this point in time, especially if I'm trying to envision long term, maybe Luck, but I don't think that's a slam dunk. At Alex Shirley 10, will the Steelers return to the playoffs this year? Not very likely, in my opinion. When I get to the Pittsburgh Steelers 2014 team preview, you'll find out why. And remember, guys, I'm doing all 32 teams, the 2014 NFL season preview, team by team on this channel. And then after I do that, I'll give you predictions of who I think will win MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive Defensive Player of the Year, playoff predictions for both conferences, Super Bowl 49 predictions, all of that stuff. At AGS WWE, if you were to build your NBA franchise around one active player, who would he be and why? Because, see, here's the challenge. LeBron is still in his prime, but we're talking about a LeBron who is now, 29, about to be 30 next year. So would you really want to build your team around a guy who, at your best, you might have for 7, 8 seasons, and maybe only 3 or 4 of those are real top-flight LeBron levels before all that mileage and wear and tear from the NBA schedule since 18 years of age starts to take a toll on his body? If I went to a slightly younger player, maybe a guy like a Kevin Durant, maybe. I don't know if there's that one guy that would truly stand out. Some that believe in the big man being the path to a championship might say a guy like an Anthony Davis. I don't know if I agree with that, but it is what it is. I look at Durant and I see a guy who can put more than 30 a game on the scoreboard, if you will, and he's also the type of player I think you need in today's NBA in order to win championships. You have to have that stud on the perimeter. That whole notion that big men win championships and have to be the dominant players, that's a notion that's long since been kicked out, and people need to stop thinking it. You've got to have that guy on the perimeter. At JH Mills 22, what are your thoughts on the Tigers getting David Price? That one surprised me just a little bit, but I applaud them for doing it, and frankly, I thought they got a pretty good deal in terms of what they had to give up for David Price, which I really didn't think was as much nearly as I thought they were going to have to. And does this make them the front runners in the American League? I think at this point in time, you'd have to say that the two apparent front runners have to be the Oakland A's and the Detroit Tigers, and they really seem to be positioning themselves in a way where it's going to be those two teams squaring off in the ALCS. Now, crazy shit can happen, but that seems to be the tit for tat that's been going on all year long, and it would seem only appropriate at this point in time, based off the way the 2014 season has transpired so far, that it would come down to those two teams. At Master Havoc, what do you think of an NFL team being in London? I don't like it. I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid. I think you have all types of challenges from a logistical standpoint in terms of time differences, travel for teams. Is that a home team? Are they ever really a home team with all the jet lag they're going to incur and time zone changes they're going to have throughout the course of a season? Then you have the problem of what free agent will want to go play the NFL in London, England. There's a lot of challenges that I don't think the NFL is doing nearly a good enough job of really truly thinking about and vetting through before they try to sit there and force an NFL team in London. And, again, it's nice to have the NFL play a couple of games a year in London as a novelty, but you are trying to smack dab yourself into Europe where you really don't have an infrastructure of, let's say, young Pee-wee football or a ton of players that come and play in your league from that area, I just don't see where this is going to be good. I don't see where this makes a lot of sense for anybody involved whatsoever. Mark Lioness Jr. asked, do you think the Ravens will step in and rightly punish Ray Rice after dumb Dick Goodell stuck with his ruling? Because I don't. Oh, and I don't either. And I think they're going to look at it and say the NFL, chose the discipline and they're going to support that discipline. Now, me personally, I understand why the Ravens wouldn't step in and suspend him more, because that would probably get an appeal from the players' union. That might cause some animosity from the players and the union members in the locker room. Unfortunately, Ray Rice, to me, does deserve to be suspended more, a minimum of 4 games. Joke that he only got 2, but I don't anticipate the Ravens stepping in and doing anything about it, and maybe they shouldn't. At JGore492 asks, it's early, but what do you make of Johnny Manziel struggling at training camp, and do you think it's just growing pains for a young quarterback? I think in part it's young quarterback having some growing pains. I think it's also him trying to adapt to an NFL system as opposed to the type of system that he ran in college, which, while there are some similarities, there are also some big striking differences. I think also maybe he's learning that you have to engross yourself in the playbook more than he clearly did. Nothing wrong with partying, nothing wrong with having a good time, as long as you're responsible with it and all. But you also have to make sure you take care of business. And maybe he didn't do a good enough job of taking care of business after being drafted this offseason. And at Kitties on Crack closes out this Q&A by asking, what are your thoughts on Paul George's horrific injury? It sucks. It's bad for the Pacers. It's bad, obviously, for Paul George. It's bad for the NBA. It's definitely an earth-shattering happening for the Eastern Conference, because it just blows everything up. Now where you were looking at the Pacers as maybe being the early favorites, even with losing Lance Stevenson or being among them, now there's questions about whether the Pacers will even be a playoff team, and it just opens everything up. It's terrible. It sucks. It's sad. I feel really bad for Paul George. To the people that are going to sit there and say, well, it happened in a meaningless scrimmage and ... It could have happened any number of ways. If it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And sometimes this type of stuff just happens. I think it's really unfortunate for Paul George, though, because I envision him having trouble ever getting back to the previous level of play that he was just starting to achieve and just starting to realize. It's that ankle injury, man. He's always going to have it in his mind. He's always going to be thinking about it. The road to rehab is going to be an incredibly long one. Losing entire NBA seasons is never a good thing. It just sucks all the way around for all parties involved. Thanks again to all of you that submitted your questions for this Q&A. Remember, I've got the team-by-team 2014 NFL season previews going on right now on this channel. I do these Q&As again every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday here on Schleg Daddy TV. And check out some of the other content all month long on this great sports and etc. channel.